Okie dokie. So thank you very much. Sorry we're a little bit late to jump on live, but we've just been having a chat with the people that have joined the room. So, Dr. Mandy Zimmerman, I would like for you to introduce yourself, my dear friend. We have known each other for not a very long time, but I feel that we've
A
got to know each
year,
other
about
more
a year,
now,
yeah.
and I'm delighted that you're here today. So tell us about yourself.
Thank you so much, Jane. And hello to everyone else who's in the room, who's listening from outside, and who's maybe watching afterwards. About myself, I'm too humble to talk too much about myself. So I am from Germany. I have been living in quite some countries. Right now, I'm living on the beautiful Canary Islands they belong to Spain. And career-wise, I started out as a chemist. I have been graduating as an engineer. I worked in global leadership positions on 4 continents at the same time in manufacturing companies. And this is when I got very interested in the topic of leadership and practiced leadership and figured out about leadership myself. There was not too much that I was taught. I needed to figure out a lot myself. And at some point, I switched into the career that I'm pursuing right now, which is leadership coaching and leadership training, also focusing on teams, not only leaders and individuals. And I'm really, really passionate about this. So I'm happy to tell a little bit more about this to you today.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Well, it's been a very interesting journey. I mean, you have moved from place to place, an external expatriate, and hopefully now you've found your place that you feel settled. Um, so, most leadership training for all those leaders that are watching and those that want to be leaders, most leadership training focuses on strategy, decision making, execution, but you do it from a slightly different angle because you emphasize self-awareness. So what's the real, I mean, that's what we're looking for, is what is the real key to being a better manager and helping the people that work for us and to achieve better results. So what's the real key? Tell us.
Yeah, self-awareness is the real key. Absolutely. And it is, I figured it out because as I told before, I needed to go through it myself. I needed to learn and understand what is leadership. I visited some courses. I had a lot of books, but how you really learn it is by doing it, right? And by having all the challenges. And what I saw is that everything in the end is always about people. There is no way that there's a moment when it's not about people. And too many leaders are acting and reacting in leadership from their blind spots. Indeed, companies, even organizations, are acting out of blind spots. They think it is about expertise, it is about skills, or as you said, problem solving. And some of them even think it's about authority, which is it not. And they do not really understand what is needed in order to help people be at their best, help people perform, because that's what leadership is about for me. And for this, you have to understand people's needs. And many people or many leaders assume that anyone is like myself, anyone is like me, anyone sees the problems like me, everyone knows what I'm talking about, and they start to set unrealistic expectations. They're not aligned with their teams. And as I said, leadership is not about skills. It's really how you show up, how you inspire people, and how you make them feel. And once people are really heard and understood, this is when they decide to follow you. This is when they start to trust you, feel safe. And that's real leadership. And to get there, in order to understand other people, you have to understand yourself first. And many leaders do not understand themselves for many, many reasons. And this is why I say self-awareness is the key. You first have to listen to yourself, understand what are your blind spots, what are your strengths, what are you good at, or maybe not, and what do you have to change, and how can you do it before you try to change anything else, if it's in your career, in leadership, in even in technical things that have to do with the team. You have to start with yourself.
Interesting. So self-awareness basically about what what your weak points are, what your blind spots are. Are those particularly skills? Can those individual skills be learned? When you talk about self-awareness, it's self-awareness of what you're not good at. So how do you improve what you're not good at? Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, yeah, if you put it like this, it is absolutely a skill. Like everything, like soft skills are skills, and self-awareness is a soft skill. Like every skill you practice, you learn by practicing. If you don't know where to start, of course you have to find, and you have to pause, you have to stop at some point and look at what is important here. And when it's about self-awareness, you have to look at yourself first. You have to start to realize, start to understand, who are you, where are you, what is going on around you, what is the impact that you're having. And this is training, this can be learned. People who are very low in self-awareness might need help with that. They might not get there themselves, but it is absolutely a skill that everyone can learn.
Fantastic. So how does emotional intelligence help them specifically to be better leaders?
So you mentioned problem solving and decision making. So leaders very much focus on these parts in their leadership. But if they would add understanding their emotions, their own emotions, and understanding emotions of everyone else around them, understanding the needs that are behind those emotions, then they start to understand what is needed in order to communicate. They will communicate more clearly. So instead of only focusing on the hard skills and on the problems, if you enhance your emotional intelligence, which means being aware and being able to manage your own emotions and the emotions of others, you are able to connect better. And by connecting better, you are able to understand and make your decisions in a different way that are more effective.
Do you think AI is going to have a big effect on leadership qualities and leadership traits and that kind of thing?
AI has a big impact on everything. And, and as in every case, it can have a good impact and it can have a not so good impact. The not so good impact might be that leaders detach even more from people, from emotions, from themselves by relying even more on technology. And don't get me wrong, technology is a wonderful tools that we can have there, and we make things for ourselves easier and quicker and faster. However, we have to be aware that we don't detach, that we don't only live in our computer. And we have a lot of remote teams nowadays as well, right? It's the same thing. We live through a screen. And this is where we're disconnecting. We're disconnecting from the real world. We're disconnecting from real people and from ourselves. So that's the challenge of AI. But I believe AI in the future can have also a lot of good tools that help leaders to understand, that point out here is something, a blind spot that I saw, or here might be something that that you want to listen deeper into yourself. So for example, some software integrated with AI that listens to how leaders speak. This is already existing, right? That um, um, see facial or what's the word that detect facial emotions or expressions, that listen to voice, your tone of voice, and that can point out to you and say, okay, here's something you might want to say that differently, or here's where I saw your team member being a little bit distracted from maybe from what you said. Have a thought about this. So I think also AI can help in the future to yeah, like a little crutch for some leaders that might need that.
That's very interesting because I think someone needs to have a level of self-awareness to realize that there are weaknesses in certain areas before they do something about it, unless there's a big brother situation where it's interesting that that kind of technology exists though, because I mean, imagine it could improve every individual if you're in sales or you're in or you, presentation skills, that kind of thing. if it could give direct feedback, that's really an interesting tool. Very,
Yeah,
it's amazing.
I think we're going to go there in the future. I hope.
Every expert I speak to has got different different tools that they're aware of within their industry, and I just think it's just, I mean, just what ChatGPT can do is going bananas. Going bananas. What a great phrase. But there's so many additional tools that even a lot of us aren't even aware of what's going on. So I know there is an app where it what it does is it focuses, makes your eyes look like they're focused on the camera.
Yes.
And I spoke to a guy about that, and he's like, yes, I'm using it right now. And he was actually leaning back in his desk, deliberately looking in a drawer. So he flashed it, he turned the tool off and he turned it back on again. And he was literally looking like this, looking keen, looking interested. And I'm like, okay, now people don't have to have their cameras off. They can just leave
Yeah.
it on.
Well, it's tricky in both ways again, right? It helps, especially when you
Yes,
might I usually, so I have you on speaker view right now, but I usually focus on other people and I focus on the speaker. So if the speaker is here, I might look here.
yes,
And it
right.
is nice to have the audience feel connected. However, it can also contribute more in people who are already disconnected from others to even disconnect more because now they don't have to care about how they're looking at someone and if they are connecting. So I think the trick here is really having a lot of one-on face-to-face interactions still. Doesn't have to be necessarily always at work because we have remote companies, but practice your people skills. Not only leaders need people need people skills. Practice your people skills
Yeah.
outside in the real world.
Yeah. And we were just talking about that. I mean, we both work a lot online, and actually meeting people face to face. It now, especially for those of us that do work online, it takes extra effort. It takes quite a lot of time to get to a place that may be organizing the event or organizing it ourselves, and I guess some of us just get a little bit lazy when it comes to that area of life. And I realized that I could go a whole week and not see a single person's face apart from behind a screen. And you do lose, there's an element of giving each other a hug and like the things that make us human. I mean, I'm not saying that leaders should go around hugging their employees, but it's an element of just reading the body language and everything else, facial expressions, body language. It's all vital, and you don't see that many people's body language when you're on a script, especially when you're on a black screen. You don't
Yeah,
see.
absolutely.
Okay. Hi, Surijan. Can I just ask you to turn your video off, actually, for now, so that on the recording? Thank you so much. If you've got any questions, please feel free to pop them into the chat, and we will be when we come off the live. We'll invite you all to turn your cameras on so you can have a chat to Mandy directly. Okay, so you've worked with a lot of leaders across a lot of different cultures. I mean, you've talked about Mexico and Middle East and la 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 la. What are the common struggles that leaders face, no matter where they're from?
I think everywhere on the planet, leaders have the struggle of pressure, of time pressure, and not enough resources. So leaders are forced now with less resources, achieve more in less time as well. And that comes very much back to your leadership skills, how you show up as a leader. Because how do you solve problems? How do you get results? It's through teams. And if you want to have the same team with less time and less resources achieve more results, the only way to get there is by helping them to be more effective,
Mhm.
helping them to manage the resources and the time better, helping them to collaborate in a different way. And for that, you have to know and understand people. And as I said before, you have to know and understand yourself first. So you have to understand how needs work, how emotions work, how um, people relationships work. Then you have to understand how your team's relationships work in order to be able to help them, to support them. So that's one big struggle that probably every company on this planet has. Another struggle that I see in many, many leaders especially, no, not every level, I think, is they believe they have to have all the answers.
Mm.
So they're always pressured to, I have to know, and not knowing is something a little bit scary. Not knowing might be seen as weak, as not professional, as not expertise. And I was the same when I started, right? It's like, oh, I have to know it all. But how can you? How can you possibly, especially in the world of today where so much innovation is coming, where you work with cross-functional teams? If you work with cross-functional teams, there's no way you know everything. So you don't have the answers. How do you
Thing though,
make
I can't know because everything's changing, everything's evolving. So even if you thought you knew everything yesterday, there's something else that you don't know about today. Yeah,
absolutely. And becoming comfortable with not knowing is a skill as well. It's a soft skill. And it's something that you learn by learning and understanding yourself because there's a reason why you are uncomfortable. It's beliefs, it's limitations. Um, it's insecurities. And by understanding these and working on these, you become more comfortable and confident in not having the answer and relying on your team and trusting and knowing what to develop in your team to get to the answers that you need. So that's another common struggle. And I think another one, it's the last one that I'm saying here, is that especially in higher leadership position and especially for women, leadership feels lonely. So I have been working with quite some women leaders at top positions that said it's lonely at the top. So they don't really have someone to exchange, to share, to learn as well from, because they have to be the ones with the answers. They have to be the ones that manage everything, and they don't have that exchange. So most of the high level leaders actually are coming to coaching to have a sounding board. It's not always so much about solving a problem. It's really more to see to get things out, to have them somewhere, to have them reflected back, and to understand, oh, I'm not the only one, because then I can share observations that I have, and I say, oh, that's nice. That's nice to know that it's lonely, but I'm not lonely. I'm not alone. I'm not solitary here.
absolutely. I mean, I think it's really interesting because whatever your whatever your situation, if you speak about it to someone that's emotionally intelligent, then just simply speaking about it helps you to sort through the stuff in your mind. And obviously, often you can come up with your own answers. But if you don't get it out, then everything stays cluttered in your head. So yeah, I think that's really interesting. What do you think the emotional challenges leaders face that we don't talk about enough? Because I think that's a big issue. When you said about there's just not enough time and the pressure is on, make more in less time and make more profits and yeah, and do you know what I mean? There's something has to give, really. But in that emotional foray, leaders are in the middle trying to balance everything. So what do you
Yeah,
feel?
yeah. So I think the biggest emotional challenge is that people believe way too many people still believe that emotions are not good. Emotions have to be
Mm,
suppressed, ignored, not shown. And that doesn't make you feel any better, right? If you suppress, you're just numbing yourself. It's like having a big balloon of air and trying to put it underwater. It's coming sometime anyway, and it's coming like with a huge blow. Um, However, people think still that emotions don't have a space. So
yeah.
that's a challenge that they're having because they then don't learn how to manage and regulate them when they come up
How can
and
you
learn.
become self-aware if you can't show your or at least see your emotions so that you know what you're aware of?
Absolutely. It's a disconnection again from yourself and from everyone else.
I think
And
I think that a lot of people feel that showing your emotions shows a weakness that you're not coping or you're especially if you get upset by something, it's seen as a weakness. Whereas actually, especially for women, me particularly, a few tears solves a lot of problems. It's an just
absolutely, absolutely. And emotions are data.
absolutely, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
they are
Fab.
data.
Have you ever worked with a leader who resisted the idea of self-awareness? And how did you help them to see that value?
There are quite some, especially in coaching. Companies send people to coaching. Some people love it and they want, and it's really, they're willing to go there. You have to have a little bit of bravery to go there as well. But then some are just like, okay, I don't know, what do we want here? And they expect me to have an agenda. They expect me to have solutions and answers and tips. That's not what coaching is about, and that's not what self-development is about. So I meet them in the first place. I meet them where they are because it doesn't make any sense to try to coach someone who's not ready for it. And coaching is a lot about self-awareness. It's about uh, a lot about looking deep in your side and finding stuff. And again, being curious and but also being brave. And because you will find some insecurities, you will find some vulnerabilities. So I meet them where they are and I help them see the impact that they're having by not working on some things because there's a reason why they're sent or there is a challenge that they're having. And by helping them seeing their own impact on that challenge, on the team. My team is not working, my team is not responding, my team is not motivated. The leader has a big, big impact on this, if not the biggest. So helping them to see how their maybe analytical thinking is disconnecting from the emotional needs that the team is having because they're different. They have different perspectives, different understanding of stuff, different motivation that they need. They got just demotivated. Helping them seeing this and working more on outcomes and business numbers, that's usually when they say, okay, so what can we do about it? And then we start very small. We start with very small exercises. And if it's, for example, pausing, like you cannot imagine how difficult it is for people to pause, to shut up and let others speak. It's very difficult. So starting with very, very small exercises and have them observe themselves and also seeing the shift. So they come back after, let's say, 2 weeks, they practice pausing and they see a shift, they see a reaction in their people, something changed. And seeing that those small things can have an impact, then they usually open up and say, okay,
I love
starting to get a bit vulnerable here. And of course, they feel safe then after some hours with me, they see they have a safe space. There's everything is confidential, psychologically safe. They can do this. Usually, most of them open up.
It's funny when you talk about pausing, the strength of a pause, even when I speak to my English students and they try and speak very quickly. It's like the power of a pause and the power of slow speaking is really impactful, especially in the global market. You need to make sure that people understand you. And when you pause, it just means that what you're going to say is worth listening to. And yeah, a pause is the strength of a pause. I can feel a post coming on about the strength of a pause. Okay, so for leaders listening right now, what's one small but powerful change they can make today to become more self-aware?
Okay, so if I only mention one, I would say start writing down observations about yourself. Observe what did you not like about today, about people, about what happened, about what you didn't achieve. But then ask yourself, where do I come in? What triggered me to have that? What emotion was I feeling in the first place? Many people don't know their emotions. There are tools online, emotional wheels. There are apps on the phone that you can to rate your emotions, to understand what emotion this is. And then ask yourself, where is it coming from? What triggered this emotion? Because when you understand the trigger, you get closer to the need because an emotion comes because of a need. If it's a negative emotion, that need is not fulfilled. So what is this need behind behind that emotion, behind that trigger? And how can you serve it? How can you maybe, if it's not possible in the situation to be fulfilled, how can you fulfill it differently? If it's a need to release your energy and you're in a room with very quiet people that cannot handle your energy, maybe you have to go before and after a meeting for a walk, like almost a run, right? So that can be observe yourself every single day and start writing down what's coming up, and you will feel by just writing it down, you won't know at the beginning what to write. You will be surprised how much is coming from that observation.
Really true. I mean, emotions, it's sometimes very difficult to label emotions, but I mean, you get that trigger. I get that feeling in my stomach, and sometimes I have no idea what causes it. But if you think about what's happened immediately before it, okay, that feeling's there. Okay, so what triggered it? And then you start to be able to unravel because those triggers, they're there to tell us something. So, like,
Absolutely. And your body tells you a lot. Yeah.
a lot of time just trying to ignore it, trying to suppress it, but we really need to get those triggers out and then, start working on them. Absolutely. Okay, so now listen, you've worked with many leaders in many industries, in many countries. What's the one thing that great leaders have in common?
Well, you won't be surprised, but great leaders understand themselves.
Yeah, not shocking that one.
So they are brave enough and courageous enough to be vulnerable and to go there and do what has to be done, what has to be changed inside. So they know how to grow from within, how to lead from within. And again, as I said before, it needs a lot of vulnerability to go there. And great leaders understand that and know this.
So many leaders struggle with balancing technical expertise and people skills. So how do they improve their leadership without losing their technical edge? I guess you've already answered that actually, because it's all about self-awareness. So you have to and confidence in your team. I think that's kind of
Yes, yes. But a tip for technical leaders here, because technical leaders are very hyper rational. Everything has to make sense, but they are also curious by nature because they are curious about how things work, how maybe science works, how machines work, whatever technical. They're technically very curious. If they learn to shift that curiosity towards another field, towards people, um, they can use exactly that skill that they have already. So they don't have to balance anything. Yeah. They don't have to choose between one or the other. It's not about, oh, now I'm shifting from my technical credibility. They keep that credibility. Well, they gained it already, they earned it. To additionally having people skills, and by having people skills, this is how you make people follow you. So if you shift that curiosity and if you learn how to express yourself in a different way, how to listen in a different way, how to ask different questions, people related questions. You can just do both, and the balance comes just alone.
yeah, brilliant. Okay, so looking back, what's the one leadership mistake that you made early in your career?
Yeah, of course, I made mistakes.
Oh, thanks.
Not only one, but I think the first leadership mistake that I remember that was very a big aha moment is at the beginning I tried to find my leadership style. Even before I got into this position, I bought books and I was reading a lot, and I understand myself pretty well. I understand what I need. However, as I said before, I assumed everyone needs what I have to give. So learning that there's not this one leadership style that works for everyone was a big eye opener. So I needed to adjust based on their level, based on their emotional level, based on their needs, based on their motivations. Some people wanted to lead a project, or some people wanted to have more money. Some people needed to be protected in a way of backed up. So they were brilliant in their decision, like in their technical expertise, but decision making was difficult because they didn't feel confident enough. So they needed to have a back up for that confidence, and needed to be trained a little bit more in confidence. So I needed to make the decisions for them, even though they knew more than me. So my leadership style was more like, you know everything, and I'm trying to hold the team together and give you what you need. And not everyone has the same needs and leadership style.
I think that's a great mistake to make though, because that kind of it's something then that other people can learn by that from that mistake. And I mean that's the wonderful thing about mistakes, I think.
Yeah, and I learned a lot.
So what's the best advice you've ever received about leadership?
The best advice has to do with silence. It's you don't know how loud your silence actually is.
Mm.
Because we talked about pausing, we talked about listening, and just being silent, you open up for so many opportunities. You open up to other perspectives. You let people talk, and you can learn from other people. And you give them also a safe space by being silent and just let people participate. You give them a lot of space, and that is leadership. And leadership is actually not silent, it's loud. It's just not, you don't hear it, but you can feel it. It's a different kind of
Yeah.
loud, if you say.
Just to be clear, sitting silently in meetings because you don't have the confidence to speak up is very
Oh, no,
different.
I don't mean that silence.
Okay, so if you could go back and give your younger self one piece of career advice, what would it be?
It would be, especially since I'm a woman and I grew up in a technical field around technical thinking men, trust in yourself and don't let anyone tell you that your emotions are a weakness. That would be something I needed to know and understand earlier in my career because I felt that I'm weaker than the others because I have a lot of emotional intelligence skills. I have a lot of empathy to give, and that's very natural to me, and that's wonderful skill to have, and that's for others to learn. I might not have other skills, so high, but I can learn them too. So I can learn a lot of skills, but my relationship skills and my emotional skills are actually a gift. So let no one ever tell you that you're weak.
Confidence in your own skills and your gut feeling, and absolutely
Big
fantastic.
time.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Mandy. Just for those that are in the Zoom room, just hold on. I'm going to stop the session in just a moment, and then if you've got any questions, you can feel free to ask. But meanwhile, tell everyone where can they contact you. And I also heard on the grapevine that you might have a free resource. So tell us all
Yeah,
about it. We'll put the
I have a
link.
gift. I have a gift to give. So I have, as I said, journaling is a very good tool to start. And I actually provide it for everyone who wants a journaling tool. It's a 7-day leadership reflection tool. I put some prompts, some questions, some ideas and tips in this journaling booklet as well. And at the end, there's even a self-assessment about your blind spots. If you are willing to go there, if you're brave enough to see your blind spots, that's something to do as well. And by downloading that journal, you can sign up for my newsletter. You can also see my LinkedIn and my Instagram, my email contacts. It's all on my, when you sign up. Yeah, I'm going to send you. If you sign up for my newsletter, I'm going to send you everything. Or probably you also are able to put some of my contacts in the link.
Fantastic. Yes, absolutely. So after this session, there will be a link. There'll be a couple of links in the chat so that you in the comments section so that you can feel free to follow Dr. Mandy and of course reach out to her if you feel that you might be able to improve your leadership skills. So for all those on LinkedIn, thank you very much for joining us. I'll see you next time.